Loved it.
Thank you.
Particularly, I loved the last track, the very last one, that kind of
the
like
synthy, the ethereal one.
like Grindhouse, like that kind of, the last house on the left.
Yes.
That kind of early synth, like Moog, where it's just
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Modular synthy stuff. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, well, cool.
Track
That's
12.
surprising me. It's surprising people be liking that. I thought that's probably the one that people are going to criticize the most.
Really?
Yeah, rock and rollers or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I think they cross borders in a way that it's not overly poppy. It's more atmospheric.
Yeah.
Not to say that there's anything wrong about being poppy, but it's got that kind of cinematic feel to it.
Yeah. Again, is that what I wrote? And it's a different type of darkness.
Lovely sentence.
Thank you. I like track 12. The kind of the drum and bass tempo almost.
Yeah.
In there, that was awesome.
Right.
What's my other favourite ones? I think it was track 9.
Cool.
Come and Play With Me.
Yeah, Shatter Me With Hope.
Shatter Me, that's it. I thought it was Shadow With Me With Hope for a second, sorry.
Yeah, well, my pronunciation. But
that was a great one.
it could be Shat On Me.
What's my other faves?
Well, that sounds good, but anyway, it's...
Anyway, yeah, there were some that were awesome. It was, I'm interested on your kind of, I think your vocals were lower in the mix than everything previous to Venus Doom. Was that sort of a conscious...
Actually, it's a thing we're working on at this moment. In that particular master, the vocals are a bit down.
Okay.
So we're gonna see if there's actually really good that you said that. You have very golden ears, mate. Because that was actually a question. The producer just gave me a shout a couple of nights ago, and nobody seems to find that a problem. But it's actually kind of an 80s thing to have a lot of reverb and then the vocals not being on top.
Yeah.
So it's a vibe thing. And there's tons of vocals, so that's one of the things as well. There's a lot of that Jim Steinman type of, when Sister Mercy did this Corrosion, there's a lot of that choirs and stuff like that. And we want it to be pretty bombastic when it comes to that. And then again, it's good to leave some space for the music too. Okay. And especially this, it's so drum heavy.
Yeah.
So, but that's the American rock and roll kind of thing I wanted the album to have.
That's it. There's that bit in, I'm not sure if it's track 10. But with the, it's all the music kind of strips away. You got the drum doing that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I can't remember the rhythm, but it's that. It's like straight. That's like fucking like Dokken stage kind of thing. But
there's a couple of tracks. That was probably In the Arms of Rain. There's got that.
It's track 8. It's the one with Hail Marys.
In the Arms of Rain.
Okay.
Should probably. I don't know why they didn't print any of these song titles for anything. It's got the Hail Marys. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
And then there's a track called Love the Hardest Way. It's got those similar big toms.
Yeah.
Those like AC/DC Thunderstruck.
I love that, man.
It's good. Not a lot of people do that, so we had a blast doing all that, stuff you're not supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
It felt like, like a guilty pleasure, filled with guilty pleasure. There's one big guilty pleasure of this album.
Oh, really?
Well, we had all the reference to Aha, Rat, Poison, and Def Leppard, gazillion times. Van Halen, there's a lot of actually Van Halen, those arpeggiated guitar things that are pretty like Sammy Hagar era Van Halen.
Yeah.
Which is funny because we didn't think about it, and then all of a sudden, because I love associations, and that's how I usually talk in terms of music when I'm in the studio. I want this to sound like whatever. And Matt Squire, the producer, he was born in '76, so he's grown up exactly with similar sort of music.
Yeah.
He knows his stuff, and he grew up in DC. He was born there, so he grew up listening to like Minor Threat and Bad Brains and stuff like that, which I was listening to when I was a kid too. But then he knows all the fucking Total Eclipse of the Heart and all the poppy stuff, and so it's a good combo. He could be in this band because he loves dark, heavy stuff, but then again he loves the stupidest poppy shit. He's been doing like 303.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have those guys.
So he's co-wrote that big hit in America, Don't Trust the Hoe.
Okay.
This Matt Squire production. So he's done a lot of different kinds of stuff. So
the guitars are awesome actually. Certain parts there are quite a bit of Skid Row bits in there, like Dave Snake Sabo, like that guitar that's really. It's almost like I think Dave Snake, the way he played, especially on Slave to the Grind, is kind of almost like a rock. Dimebag. Dimebag was the metal guitarist, and it's really full of character, full of kind of fucking like.
Well, my kind of like I know.
We're still turning. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, good again. My idea was more about like how to modernize Mick Ronson.
Oh yeah.
So a guy who plays lead parts and arpeggios and everything in the same part without it sounding flashy. So like the guitar part, it wouldn't be just as we've done in the past, like there's the jugging guitar, then a chord on top. So it's not overdub, it's rather that the guitars evolve, and then there's more space for bass for that reason, and more space for drums. So it breathes a bit more the overall sound.
Well, that's how Van Halen, all those early records were done. You know, that Eddie would play the kill chords and then swoop into the solo, and there wasn't much sort of backing track. But
exactly.
The album as a whole, it kind of, in terms of like the vibe, because I know all him albums have a definite vibe, I feel, about each one. This one I kind of like to describe as like, you know, when you've got like a frustrating stiffy, like that, I'm fucking, oh yeah, I'm all like horny, but I've got clothes on, and that's what it kind of felt like. It's kind of up tempo. It's not. I know you always kind of say, hymns are very melancholic and wimpy. I didn't think it was. I thought it was like defiant and horny. Do you know what I mean? Because it's up tempo, like you said, the drums are there. It's a thrusting naked record.
Well, it's the most, lyrically, it's the most sexual one, the most horny one, definitely. The horny and the horned, as Impelled Nazarene, they had a song called that. But it's got that vibe, and it's got the sense of immediacy, the one that now, I want it now, as opposed to like it was back then when we were reading. It's not as much as looking back or being forlorn or poetic about something that is about to happen. It's actually about something that is happening right at this very moment in time, and that's what I like about it, the immediacy of the album, and the fact that there's a lot of information put in kind of short songs, and they don't let go. That was the whole like vibe for me. And should have seen me working vocals out in the middle of the night amongst my taxidermy owls in the tower in Helsinki, just screaming my guts out and figuring out, and couldn't stop until 9 o'clock in the morning, and then slept on the couch for 2 hours and started working again. So the whole process of making the album is very close to that, a big mental boner that just didn't go away.
Okay. So, and also the records are and can only be, as Burroughs said, everything anyone writes is autobiographical. Even if it's not about you, it's what you know, so it's therefore kind of autobiographical.
Yeah.
So in what sort of sense is this the story of what's happened to you since the last record?
Well, actually, this one's pretty. It's probably the most direct. It's very diary-esque, if that's a word. But in the sense that maybe through me fucking up a lot of my long-term relationships and stuff like that in the past, throughout excessive partying and just being a slob, that I kind of like lost faith when I stopped drinking all that. I felt that the world's an ugly place and there's no chance for a guy for me to find equilibrium, whether it be peace or whatever, that doesn't matter, but equilibrium of sorts, or balance between those things. And while starting to write for this album, I was on the verge of falling head over heels for a person, and so I captured that moment on the album kind of well. Unfortunately, I'm bad at saying it, so I never really had the chance of telling her that. So she'll hear the album a bit later and know how I felt a year earlier.
Okay.
So it's kind of perverse, but it's one way of doing it.
I think as well, people like that. We all like. Nine Inch Nails are a particularly a good one for that. It's all very autobiographical, so you can really connect directly in.
And he's very direct. I've never been a big fan of Nine Inch Nails, but the fact that you can't diss him, because if he feels like that, it is his right to feel like that. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to writing about something that's a bit more obscure or let's say historical, because historical facts change all the time. Autobiographical, biographical, that kind of stuff. Well, tends to change over years, but not too much. Facts are facts, and I'm better than anybody else. So I just try to, in pseudo poetry, try to hide some of the very, very direct. There's really direct references in places, people, and time that only I know of, which I like, because again, it makes me like a invisible man, a naked invisible man, kind of a thing.
See, that's again. I think that's what people like.
Street in the middle of Friday
with a butcher knife and wellies. Yeah. 5 minutes, okay.
People go, oh, see the wellies. Oh, the welly man. Ville Valo.
Ville Valo. Yeah, and I was just sort of wondering in terms of, I mean, we talked a year ago almost about you saying you wanted it to be sort of quite punky in approach, not obviously sonically. I can definitely hear it in there. Do you feel that you got what you wanted from that, from approaching it like that?
Well, the punk. I don't know. There's so many different kinds of punk. I thought, in essence, that it's about emotional letting go and not holding things back. Just let it go and let go of the flow. What do we have to lose? As musicians or as songwriters, whatever. In that sense, the whole title "Screamworks" works pretty well. The screams of ecstasy and agony, and then the primal scream, and then fucking just getting all the bullshit out. Take it or leave it. This is who I am and what the band is at the moment, and this is everything we are. We are laid bare, sonically, and with a pair of wellies on.
And that's what I was going to say as well. Like, your voice has like a kind of a renewed confidence. One of my favourite tracks is off Love Metal. It's the one where you can hear like you're freezing. I think we talked about it before.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff is back. The breaths, you can hear the intake of breathing. The scream is back. It's raw. It feels like a really confident record vocally.
Well, I think that's basically because we had more time, and I was desperate, and I don't have anything in life besides music. I don't have the pubs anymore. I don't have relationships. The only thing I have is the toilet, my taxidermy owls, and music. So, and that's a kind of a good combination. And the wellies. It's actually, not a bad idea for. I don't have wellies, so just mention that to Alex, maybe for a Christmas present. but
so you're off the booze at the moment?
Yeah. I've been for 2.5 years. No drugs, no booze, nothing. So it's just like the time I used to spend hanging out in pubs or getting wasted, or finding inspirational stories through that, which is a valid way of getting those stories, was just gone. So I'm a hermit now. I was just in the tower, just being really kind of what you do when you get sober and when you actually start writing about it, especially autobiographical stuff that's real. You're like like a raw nerve, more or less, and you're like, oh shit, this is how it feels like, because you were used to dumbing yourself down and numbing yourself when you started feeling too bad, but this time around I didn't. So maybe you can hear all that in music, and I think it's a positive thing, because it should be a cathartic scream, from the top of the mountains in slow-mo and black and white. It's with the wellies on, with the fucking dodgy hair, dude.
That's your album cover right
I
there.
just need the hairstylist name for LaRue, and then I'm all sorted.
And people sort of say, it's only people who've never sort of been to the edge emotionally, and not that drugs are essential, and I'm including booze and everything in that, but it's having been there and then coming back from, and Juliette Lewis, I remember, was sort of saying she doesn't drink now because she wants to actually feel everything. So that kind of almost makes the screaming and the passion more honest, almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's more painful. It is. But then again, the cool thing about going through substance-filled hell is the fact that now you actually know how much it does really hurt when you are sober. So I would definitely recommend it to people. When you're feeling the worst in your life, don't go into a pub and see what happens, because then you're going to go even deeper into the abyss. And so far you've been able to, I've been able to pull myself out by listening to Black Sabbath. So hopefully we can do the same thing.
Kind of ironic, really, isn't it? Listening to Doom made me happy.
Yeah, like Lee talking about surfing speed.
And again, the irony of hanging out with Lee Dorian and being like, I'm brilliant.
Indeed. Chips and peas, lads.